Hey guys, welcome back to Kevin Wilson SBC. I've got to share with you some pretty important information that I captured from some in-shop work a little while back. This race car driver, Mr. Boone, gave me permission to use this footage and use his car as an example to hopefully help others. I'm actually going to show you about 6 minutes of uncut in-shop video so that you can see I'm not doctoring this video. I'm not trying to fool anybody. I want you to see exactly what's going on for 6 minutes of actual in-shop work. And what I want to explain to you is I've drawn all this out, and I just went over this with everybody, but I didn't have my camera recording. So it's been a while. I'm a little rusty here, but I want to walk you through what's going on. This car has a Mustang 2 front end, and this right here is supposed to be the lower control arm. This is the upper control arm. These are ball joints right here, and this is the factory spring with a shock running through it. This is the rack and pinion front end, and this is the tie rod link and the outer tie rod. The bottom control arm and the tie rod link are very equal in length. They pivot at the same points right here. So most people, when they think of bump steer, they think, hey, if I can just get this tie rod link, you know, in a parallel axis with the lower control arm, and they're articulating together, I should be good to go. And that would be a very, that's just part of the equation, I should say. I drew this arc over here with some string, holding the string here and holding the chalk, and I drew this arc to illustrate kind of what's going on here. This car, sitting at rest, has a 1/4 degree positive camber. So a 1/4 degree positive, and by positive camber, what I mean is the front tires, if you're looking at them like this, if they lay away from the engine, that's positive camber. If the tires, the top of the tires lay in towards the motor, that's negative camber. Well, this car, this Maverick with a Mustang 2 front end, has a 1/4 positive camber at rest with the weight of the car sitting on the ground race ready. However, as we lift the front of the car to simulate the car launching and leaving the line and going down the track, the car goes from a 1/4 positive to 3/4 negative camber. So it goes to 0.75 negative, which is a 1 degree camber swing going negative. So it has a 1 degree negative sweep through the articulation of the front end. I'm going to show you every bit of this uncut video from the in-shop, but I need to set the stage here real quick. So a lot of people are like, well, why is this camber changing so bad, and so what? What are you so concerned about, Kevin? The problem is that when we start this process at ride height, the car has about an 1/8 inch of toe in, or you know, like a 1/16 toe in per se. The problem is, as we lift the front end and the tires finally come off the ground, with a 1 degree negative camber swing, we have over, or right at, or just a hair over 2 inches of toe in change. 2 inches of toe in change. In this car, when the front end comes up, the tires toe out. This is really important to connect the dots here. If you think about a car going down the track, you're looking at the front of the car, I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and you're looking at my front tires. And as I'm going down the track, the tires go negative and toe out. And I'm going down the track just like that. Okay, toe negative and toed out. For one, I'm scrubbing the tires against the contact path of the track. And those tires are actually trying to compress the tie rod ends and put all that pressure against the suspension. The biggest problem is, let's say it launches and it lifts the tires and comes out and sits them down. When it sits down the tires, let's say around 30 feet or 40 feet out, those tires are going to go 2 inches toed out to immediately an 1/8 inch toed in. Immediately. And depending on how quickly this happens and how much control you have, with that kind of toe end change, this car could dart left or right. You may get lucky and keep it straight. But depending on how the car leaves and if the car pulls left or right with the tires up in the air and then you set it down, you don't know how the car is going to react. But let's just say the car leaves fine. It comes out, it sits the front end down, and you can keep control of it, you know, but then you go through your run. And let's say at 120 miles an hour to 140 miles an hour on the other end, that car is up. The front end's up as it goes down the track. Now it settles down a little bit, but the front end is still articulated up. You watch some of the Street Racing Channel videos and you watch how much that front end settles on the top end when you lift off the throttle. When you let go of the throttle and you watch Billy, and you watch his Nova, you watch how much that front end settles down. And that's even after he's limited front end travel. When that front end on the top end settles down and you have a 2-inch toe end change, God knows where that car is going to go. And let's say it gets a little squirrely and in a panic, you touch the brakes, that car is going left or right. It is a very, very dangerous situation to have 2 inches of toe change. I don't like to see more than 1/4 of an inch toe change throughout the articulation of a front end. This car has 2 inches of toe change. Why, Kevin, why is it changing the toe so much? I'm glad you asked. If you look at this car, like I said, and you're going to see it in the video, the lower control arm is not that crazy of an angle. The tie rods are not that crazy an angle. They're pretty complementary to each other. Now, I got some concerns about how the rack was mounted. I actually think the rack could have been mounted a little higher up on the chassis to help with this situation, but let's bear with me. The biggest problem is in this upper control arm. This upper control arm is already at a pretty big downhill rake sitting at ride height, which is putting it, you know, already in the part of the arc that's pulling the spindle in. And as the front end comes up, these control arms are going to droop. Everything's going to go down. And when this upper control arm goes down, it is really at a severe angle through its arc. And as you go through the bottom of the arc, you're pulling the top of the spindle in towards the motor. This is coming in towards the motor faster than the bottom of the spindle is pulling in. So you're introducing a rapid 1-degree camber change. This has front steer. In other words, the tie rod connects to the spindle in front of the control arm. Some cars connect to the spindle behind the control arm. But in this situation, with the tie rod in front of the control arm, with the top of the spindle coming in negative so rapidly, and these angles are not in the same part of their arc, they're not moving as fast as the top. This tie rod, if you're looking at this tire, as it comes in, it pulls against that tie rod and it pushes the tire out. Okay, it has no where to go but out. As the top of the tire goes negative, this has to push out. There's nowhere else for it to go. This car has a huge geometry problem. This upper control arm really needs at least a 1-inch longer ball joint. It could really benefit from a 2-inch longer upper ball joint, if they even make those for Mustang 2 front ends. But this upper control arm really should be going uphill a little bit so that it's following the arc of its path the same way the lower control arm and the tie rods are following. You want all of these arm arcs to be following the same part of their arcs so that the spindle is getting pulled from the top and bottom the same amount in as the front end comes up. When you have the bottom being moved more or the top being moved more, you're going to have a huge change in toe end because of the geometry of the front end. All right, let's jump in to the actual in-shop footage. I may do a little voiceover. The camera's not all that still. My iPhone doesn't have a lot of stability control, but this is uncut video, and you're going to see exactly what's going on with this car. I wanted to set the stage here first, though, so that you can understand more what I'm talking about. So let's jump into the video. Okay, guys, what we're doing here is we're trying to demonstrate why this car is having such severe toe out on the front end lifting. So Dad is checking the camber now, and we're at what?
Light quarter.
All right, so we're at a light quarter. Quarter positive on the camber, and we verified both sides, but I'm not going to cut the video. What I want to do is I want to see, I believe the upper A-arm on this car is already coming down at a pretty good angle. You can't really see it from up here. But I really believe this car would benefit from a 1 inch longer upper ball joint. But let's demonstrate. So we're going to lift the front end using the jack, and Dad's going to keep an eye on the camber. We're going to watch what the camber does as this comes up. Now, as this comes up, the tire is going to toe out.
Hold on. I'm at 0.
All right, so we've moved
We lost a quarter of a degree.
We lost a quarter of a degree. We're going to keep coming up.
Right there. Three-quarter negative.
All right, so we have moved 1 degree just with this lift. And this is not abnormal front end lift, guys. I mean, we hadn't even got the wheel off the plate yet. So we're going to keep coming up. Now the whole time.
Let's clear the tire.
All right. All right, tires off the ground.
I'm a ½ degree negative, which is throwing toe out.
So we were at 3/4 negative, and it kind of came back.
If the tire would have stayed
Oh yeah, you're right. If
towed in,
in.
turn the steering wheel to the right and left just a little bit. Let's get this tire back to where the toe end was right.
We still got the steering wheel locked in.
Right there. And now, a little bit more. Oh, that's good. Now we're back to 3/4 negative.
All right.
3/4 negative camber will give you toe out.
So what we did is
We got front steer.
Yep. So if you can, let me see if I can get this light and show you this upper control arm.
Oh God, kid, that thing's pointed down.
That upper control arm, guys, is really at a severe angle down. I wish I can find a better way to show you this. Oh, maybe through here.
You got a good shot right here.
Okay, you can see how severe the upper control arm is pointing down on the spindle. And as the front end articulates up, that upper control arm is pulling the top of the spindle in negative. When you pull the top of the spindle in negative with the tie rods in the front, it has no choice but to push the tires out and create toe out. Severe toe out. I mean, this car off the ground has over 2 inches change in toe in. It goes from a heavy 1/8 toe in to over 2 inches toed out. This car is not safe to operate in this condition.
I don't know if 1 inch longer would be enough.
I don't know if a 1 inch longer push ball joint's enough either. Seriously.
Just drop it. You want to watch out the wheel?
Yeah.
See, right now we're showing a bunch of toe out, and I got the steering wheel straight.
And the steering wheel did not move. I think that tire towed in tremendously, and the steering wheel did not move.
And look at that control arm, it's already started down.
Yeah, so at rest, the control arm's already going downhill. I mean, the geometry on this is just not right.
At this point, that front end needs to be tightened up.
Yeah, at this point, the only safe way to operate this car would be to limit the front end travel to nearly nothing up. Because if this car were to hook and bite and get down the track with the front end extended, and then on the top end when you lift and that front end comes back down and that kind of toe end change, this car is going to be darting all over the place. Not safe. Okay, that's the actual in-shop video. Uncut, nothing was spliced in. I wanted to intentionally keep the video running. I'm sorry if some of it was shaky or whatever, but hopefully now you can better understand why these control arm geometries in relation to your tie rods and how your steering connects, and how you want these angles to be more complementary and not the upper control arm at such a severe angle, the lower control arm parallel and everything else parallel, and now you start introducing huge camber swings into the front end of your car. These are serious safety issues. Now, there were other issues on this car with safety that I shared with Boone, and we talked through those. With my in-shop work, I write up everything. Every detail about your car is written up and documented. Scale weights, 4-link, everything is completely documented. But hopefully this video makes some sense, because if you're not safe, if your car's not safe and you have stuff like this going on, even if you're not going to do it for yourself or your family, do it for the other driver. Don't take your car out like this and line it up with somebody else and put their life at risk. If you want to go test this car, then go out by yourself. I even recommended to Boone to limit the front end travel on this car to no more than a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of front end travel until he can solve this geometry problem. You cannot let this front end articulate and have these big swings in geometry to put your life and the life of somebody else, or God forbid, the life of even a spectator, at risk at 120 miles an hour on the top end or at mid-track. You just should not do it. This front end had, I believe, almost 4 inches of front end travel. And with the geometry, that's way too much. It's just way too much. And I just kind of wanted to share more here. I have some thoughts on some things we can do to correct that, other than, well, you got to do this upper control arm. You got to get that changed. The rack and pinion, I got it drawn pretty perfect here. It wasn't exactly perfect, but we could have brought the rack and pinion up on the chassis. They could have moved the rack and pinion mount up a little bit, and it would have helped with the arc of the tie rod to not have so much toe out. But that's kind of a band-aid. You really need to move the rack up, get this upper control arm up, and get these angles more complementary in line with each other. Remember, as something pivots through the down part of the arc, it really begins to rapidly change fast on how quick it is pulling your mount point in towards the pivot point. That is critical to understand. Hey, listen, I hope this made sense. It's so good to be back doing suspension videos. And just remember this, guys. I look forward to more content. I look forward to sharing more with you about the Studebaker. We've taken the Studebaker had a 10.5 inch blower plug in it. and the rear nozzles on the back of the hat were spraying on top of the blower plug. I've removed the blower plug. I've freed up those nozzles so they can actually go into the blower now and not create a bunch of turbulence. Now the air coming into the bird catcher should not be rolling around the back of the bird catcher because of that blower plug. I do have some people telling me, well, you might lose a little efficiency on the blower. But I brought it up and did a burnout in the driveway. I brought it up on the two-step. It had the same amount of pressure or boost as it did with the plug in it. Now, of course, I couldn't, get going 141, 145 miles an hour to see what that air rushing in is going to do. But I haven't even been able to test that yet. We actually brought the chassis down in the rear of the Studebaker to get the lower bar actually almost level, maybe just a tad downhill. I think I'm gonna have better control of the 4-link now with the big tire slick. We haven't been able to test any of that. I'm converting it to coil on plug. I put a 12-1 crank trigger on it. I haven't even got all that set up yet, but we're gonna get back on that and get busy. I wanted to get this video out pretty quickly though, because it's important for everyone to understand. And just remember, we're trying to do 3 things. We want to go fast, we want to go straight, and we want to be safe. Have a good night, guys.
Tu, 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 tu.